Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. It's nice having a full room. I'm not used to having a full room all the time. This is very good. First item on the agenda, I felt like it would be wrong to make her go through an entire meeting without putting this right at the top, but welcome Elaine Walker to the planning board. Thank you very much for volunteering to serve the community. It's greatly appreciated. What I've generally done with all new members is just take a couple minutes just to introduce yourself, talk about any past experience, what motivated you to want to be on the board, and anything else that you'd like everybody on the board and the public to know.
Well, I grew up in here as long as my grandfather was, which I think was 7 years. I'm on West Main Street. I moved here from Corning, where I have a business. I'm sort of semi-retired now. As a dog daycare and boarding facility, so that's a lot of work. But anyway, I've just been active. I mean, I lived in Falls for years and was very active in my community. I had an opportunity to be involved in some planning issues there. And I really find it as fascinating. I think I believe I have quite a bit of information that I felt I might be able to put to use. I think it's important to be creative with this. It's like you don't always have to do the same thing. I guess what it is. Any questions?
Did you go through the thing of fire? We'll do that in the second meeting. Welcome to the.
I think I'm cold.
So just to be clear, Elaine filled the vacancy on the village side. So she was appointed by Mayor Skiptunis. Any board members? Any questions from any of the board members? Okay, Elaine, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is we're going to go ahead and open a public hearing for report preparation for a special use permit to open an auto shop at 2419 Plank Road. Just to catch. Did I blow by that? I did. I blew that. Sorry. Item number 4. Approval of minutes dated September 23rd, 2025. Any comments from the board members? Any corrections to make? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Motion made.
I'll second.
Seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Show that the minutes are approved. Now back to that other thing. To catch everybody up to speed, first of all, not sure everybody knows, but a local law was passed, and actually local law number 1 of 2026 for the town of Lima that created an overlay district that allows general business uses that are always to be allowed by special use permit. So in the special use permit process outlined in the Town of Lima Code, Section 250-65, any request for a special use permit must come in front of the planning board for a report, basically to report a recommendation with specific criteria to pass along to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Zoning Board of Appeals is who approves. Zoning Board of Appeals is who approves the special use permit. So tonight, our action that we're taking, we actually have the applicant here. He's going to give background of what he's proposing. We're going to hear that. We have to produce a report to pass along to the ZBA. I held a pre-application meeting with the applicant, CEO, secretary. We went through it, made sure that things we would be looking for to include in our report were going to be brought here, either in your packet or spoken to by the applicant who's going to speak to us. So we'll go through that, and then I created a draft report that basically has all the sections that are mandated, outlined by New York State Department of State. We'll go through those, and with the draft report based on things like SECRA, short form has to be done to this as a part of the report, different requirements that are in there. I pre-filled out that draft, but as a board, we're going to add to that, modify that, whatever we decide on as a board, that should be in there as far as things like conditions, things similar to like we would look at a site plan if we have any conditions, recommendations. This is really recommendation. This is not, we are not passing any type of decision, yay, nay on the project. We are simply serving in an advisory role to the ZBA in making their decision on issuing or not issuing a special use permit. Any questions process-wise from the board on what we're doing? And by the way, I just wanted to make sure on the record I had done it before I made my mistake. This is, the public hearing is open. So a couple key components that I just mentioned, I just sort of want to, catalog this so you understand when you see the, when we talk about the planning board report itself. Key components of this report are compliance with standards. So the report must analyze if the project meets specific objective criteria in the local zoning ordinance, things like noise, odor, traffic, parking, in some cases specific setback requirements. Environmental review, I mentioned SECRA, site plan details, so asking questions of the applicant about, detailed maps, site layout, building, utility plans, things like water supply, wastewater, conditions and mitigation, so if the use is acceptable but potentially detrimental, what the planning board may outline as far as conditions, like I mentioned, that could mitigate any negative impacts that the board thinks there might be associated with this use. And then we do have to address referrals. And in this case, county planning, this project was referred to county planning back before the local law was passed, when the applicant was first seeking a variance. Okay, so county planning has already looked, there have been no substantive changes to the site plan or the use since then. So we do have that on file, that referral. And the county did decide that they left it up to local jurisdiction. They said they saw no county-wide impact. Procedural requirements, we have to have a public hearing. We'll have a final decision, and we do have to have a rational nexus to the project's impact and not be based on general vague objections. So we will be specific. I tried to do so in the draft of the report. In the report, we'll have a project summary, zoning district info, impact assessment, site plan checklist. That outlines the process. I would like to call the applicant up at this time to just, you don't have to stand if you want, be comfortable.
Oh, I don't care.
Whatever you want to do.
You guys,
You talking to the board.
Okay. So hi, I'm Bryce Way. I'm opening a shop. I'm going to call it Golden Automotive, theoretically with you guys as House Board and the zoning board. Looking for a good recommendation. I've been in the industry for almost 12 years at this point. I got my master tech from Portuguese Dodge Jeep in Henrietta. Pretty much since then, it's been kind of a slope. After COVID, people aren't paying right, that kind of thing. It kind of pushed me down the path of my own shop. Me and my girlfriend bought the house together about 3.5, 4 years ago. Since then, I've been cleaning it up. I'm sure you guys have all driven by. It used to be a junkyard, no longer. Doing what I can with what I got. I'm only 26, I don't make $1 million a year, but I can stretch my legs, I can cut down trees, I can make good work out of, little bits of work here and there.
If I could, Bryce, just to clarify for the board, we're talking about the property, 2419 Plank Road, is the JP Import sign is out in front? Right.
Basically, it's going to be a local automotive shop, nothing major. I'm not going to be doing transmission rebuilds or engine rebuilds. It's going to be the in and out, quick bread and butter stuff that everybody in this town really needs, that they don't want to drive, Canandaigua, Victor. Some people don't even want to go to Huntington Falls, It's kind of to keep our town together. It'll help knit us together, so to speak. I don't know. Obviously, I've never done one of these meetings. I hope you guys got questions already loaded up.
Well, so if you want to take a seat, I think what we'll do is have a back and forth give and take.
Okay.
I'll start to go through. I think the best way is to proceed right through the draft, and we'll actually discuss some of the requirements that I outlined what the requirements.
This is what we went over in our meeting prior, correct?
What's that?
Was this our previous discussion? Kind of we outlined that.
Yes.
Yep. All right. Cool.
Yep. Yes. Okay, yeah. Everybody got it, but I'm not sure everybody had an opportunity to read it.
Yeah, I read it too.
No,
Yeah, I read it.
These two, yeah.
okay. It wasn't sitting here on the table somewhere else. Okay, so the project summary, I am basically going to skim through the report, and then we can have conversations. Stop me at any moment if you want to discuss anything or ask the applicant any questions. So, like Mr. Way said, he's seeking issuance of a special use permit for the operation of a motor vehicle service station, which is an approved use in the general business overlay district that overlays the agricultural district, the local law that was passed. The subject property has been continuously operated as a motor vehicle facility for over 60 years, previous to it not being operated for. Bryce, do you have any? How long has it sat?
It was like 9 months, I think. It was between 9 months to a year. It was brought to my attention that the previous owners, the town reached out to them and said, hey, you should keep this going as a business so you can sell it. And they kind of told the town to kick rocks, so I kind of got stuck with it. The issue is they kind of hinted at it being usable as a business when they sold it. You see an auto shop with a sign outside and all the tools inside, you kind of think, hey, I could probably run a shop there. Unfortunately, not the case, but, with the new local law, I think that's kind of summed that up.
So, as everybody knows, what happens with property, falls into a state of disrepair, landscaping that's not kept up, the building maintenance and all that. Pre-application meeting, Mr. Way had talked about, fixing the actual structure, fixing landscaping, anything you want to offer there as far as your plans.
So originally the building was 2 stories. I'm sure a lot of you saw that. If you actually go through the motor vehicle repair service station code, you're not allowed to have a dwelling above an automotive repair station. That being said, the addition was built drunk by a bunch of idiots in the middle of the night, so I didn't really want that floating over my head anyway. There's probably 1 nail where there should have been 12. Like it was a death trap. Ultimately, it prevented the first floor from taking any damage. There wasn't ever anything structural on the first floor. It was just the top floor was nowhere near safe, all the wrong materials, etc. It was kind of one of those things where it's like, do I call a company to have them do it? I called several companies. They were all like, oh, we want $300,000, and we might knock your building over. So it kind of turned into one of those things that you handle with the family and a couple pizzas and a couple hard days of work, but it looks a lot better, and it's actually going to be much better for the use case.
And it's not in the jurisdiction of this board to deal with that. You have to deal with the building inspector and the building code for that one.
Which I did. I pulled a permit.
Oh, yeah.
For the
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of scope that for everybody, that that's outside our purview anyway. And the board would absolutely endorse what you did, and you have to get all the right permits and pass the inspections that need to be done for that. Okay, so the applicant proposes to reestablish the historic automotive use on the property, automotive repair use with the following characteristics. Hours of operation, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
We're gonna try and stick, yeah, roughly. I don't think it'll be much later than 7, but I kind of want to have an option for people to get out of work and stop by. I am a little bit farther outside of town, so I don't think that's something like that big of a deal. It's, 15A is not a quiet road.
One employee, so we're not talking about a bunch of cars in and out or parking or anything for employees. Lighting, no new lighting is planned at this time. All lighting, we discussed in the pre-app meeting, all lighting is to conform with the town of Lima zoning code requirements.
Just a side note, there are a lot of lights on the building that are not working. They all will be fixed in an orderly fashion, and they're all going to obviously face inwards, not towards the road, etc.
Signage, no new signage is proposed. There is an existing sign. Posts, he is going to reface the sign, but it's not going to grow.
Yeah, I'm not breaking ground with that. Putting it right on the old post, gonna put new light bulbs in, and there we go. Turnkey on the sign.
And any lighting that does, any new lighting that does go on, that also falls under what we were saying, as far as has to meet shielding requirements, output requirements that are already in the zoning code.
Yep, 100%.
You can come in and see me and I'll figure that out. Sort of what?
Yeah, we already have a draft going, so I'm confident it'll be no sweat.
So paving, no new paving or non-permeable surfaces of any kind are proposed in this plan, is that correct?
Correct, yeah, it'll probably be gravel for the majority of it, at least for the first few years. Assuming, things go well, I'll probably want to pave at least the waiters section or something for the people that are there most of the time. But I don't foresee that happening anytime soon.
And landscaping, site landscaping to be improved. Neighbor notification, all abutting property owners have been notified and have generally expressed support. Is that the case?
Yes, sir.
Remains the case?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I have in your packets, Charlie was able to find 3 of the 4. There's one neighbor who is not, I wasn't able to identify their letter, but I do have a copy of it somewhere. If you guys are interested, I can help you.
The proposed action constitutes a reactivation of a long-standing commercial use on an existing developed parcel. Section 2, zoning district and regulatory framework, existing zoning. The subject parcel is located on the agricultural district of the town of Lima, pursuant to the town of Lima zoning code. Historically, motor vehicle repair stations were not permitted in the ag district, but like we had said, the town board has adopted local law number 1/2026, established a general business district overlay to provide limited commercial services in appropriate locations, to support economic vitality, to encourage reinvestment in underutilized properties, and to preserve agricultural lands while allowing compatible small-scale business activity. Under Local Law 1 of 2026, motor vehicle service stations are permitted within the overlay district upon issuance of a special use permit by zoning board of appeals. Section 3, referral to Livingston County Planning Board. I mentioned before, all of these applications must go to Livingston County Planning. The Livingston County Planning Board has reviewed the proposed action and determined the proposal would have no significant impact on existing county plans, programs, or activities, and the proposed action is a matter of local decision. The county did not recommend denial, modification, or conditions beyond local jurisdiction. Section 4, compliance with special use permit standards. The town of Lima code requires that special use permits be evaluated based on compatibility, impact, public health, safety, and consistency with community planning objectives. So the first, consistency with district purpose. The local law that created the general business district to allow the appropriate commercial uses in designated areas, particularly where such uses historically existed. Again, I just reiterated that this property has had upon it more than 6 decades. This use, not a new use, not increasing in scale. It is consistent with historic use of the property, represents reinvestment rather than expansion. That terminology is used in the town of Lima comp plan to support reinvestment rather than expansion, rather than sprawl. This property already exists, the structure already exists, reinvestment is a wise use of that instead of taking, for example, new farmland and putting up a new building and seeing sprawl happen. It aligns with the intent of the overlay district to enable small-scale service businesses. Small-scale service businesses and locally owned is also highlighted prominently in our comprehensive plan, which I believe, in creating this draft, I think this type of project absolutely checks the boxes for that. Number 2, compatibility with adjacent uses. The surrounding area consists primarily of agricultural and rural residential uses. The proposed operation does maintain limited hours, roughly 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., not going to go through the night, shouldn't cause disturbances with the rural residential use that are nearby. Employs only one individual, so scale doesn't seem to be an issue. Introduces no new paving or lighting, so there's not really much to do as far as site plan review. The site plan, it's
You get what you get. You can see it.
it is what it is. Is going to include landscaping improvements. That is part of not only specifically comprehensive plan that applies directly to this property, but also the 15A corridor and 5 and 20 in other plans, as well as our comp plan, are identified as gateway type, where people coming into Lima. So I know right away, I'll be the first to say that, the board's going to recommend, maybe even give you more specifics on landscaping, just because we really want to put our best foot forward, especially in those gateway areas. And proposes no expansion of the building footprint, so we don't really have any code complications regarding building footprint, floor area ratios, parking ratios based on the size. We don't have any of that. Given that the historic operation of the site is a service station for 60 years, the reestablishment of the same use is not anticipated to alter neighborhood character or create new adverse impacts. Basically, you're going to have a more modernized, nicer looking building that already exists in the neighborhood. Traffic and access. The use is anticipated to generate minimal traffic consistent with prior operations. No new access points are proposed. Traffic volumes are expected to be modest and compatible with Plank Road's capacity. So, this is not a retail business where you're going to have 50 customers at a time coming in. It's not like a daycare where you're going to have certain times of the day where, you have a steady stream coming in. I think the traffic impact is minimal, but we should obviously bring up if anybody has any concerns. We should talk about that. Number 4, public health and safety. Motor vehicle service stations are regulated by state and local fire, environmental, and building codes. The applicant must comply with New York State Fire Code, applicable New York State DEC requirements, and Town of Lima zoning code standards. So there's also, I can't remember if I addressed it somewhere else in the report, but you're also subject to special motor vehicle repair stations are also subject to some state regulatory, right?
At some point. So the problem is, before I can actually get into that side of the equation, I need a letter from the town saying you are approved to run this type of business on this property. So I do know there are a lot of other regulations that I will have to meet, but it's not necessarily something that I'm fully aware of because I can't access it yet.
Right. To your knowledge, though, I'm trying to basically predict things the board would be concerned about to include in the report, like materials handling, flammable materials, chemicals, automotive waste.
Okay, so
That's probably covered in those type regulations, yes?
okay, yeah. So on the property, I have a waste oil furnace. It burns 99% of every single fluid that comes out of the car, tractor, go-kart, pretty much any hydraulic fluid. There's almost no waste in my operation. I'm pretty much going to be able to burn everything. It's EPA compliant. It's actually the most environmentally friendly way to recycle oil.
Number 5, environmental protection. No new impervious surfaces are proposed. No new construction is proposed. Landscaping improvements will enhance site aesthetics and environmental buffering. Section 5, consistency with the Town of Lima Comprehensive Plan. The Town of Lima Comprehensive Plan emphasizes preservation of rural character, support for small-scale, locally owned businesses, revitalization of underutilized properties, sustainable economic development, and protection of agricultural lands while allowing appropriate economic activity. The proposed project strongly aligns with these goals. I'd like to take a moment and ask the board for any comments on that. Does, again, this is a draft based on collecting facts from the comprehensive plan. Those type of statements, I'm very sensitive to make sure that we do have everybody's input. Does everybody agree with that statement? Make any amendments, disagree?
No, I'm good with them, I agree with them.
Yep. Economic revitalization, comprehensive plan supports reinvestment in existing commercial property rather than the expansion into undeveloped agricultural lands. This proposal reactivates a long-standing commercial site without expanding its footprint. B, support of local businesses. Golden Automotive is locally owned small business operated by Grace Way. The comprehensive plan encourages entrepreneurship and service-oriented businesses that serve local residents. So these I'm pulling right out of the comprehensive plan. This is not a big box. This is not a corporate service center owned by somebody in California or Florida. This is somebody from our community that wants to improve our community. And
I grew up here, too.
Yeah, I grew up here. In the pre-application meeting, I actually thought out loud and asked everybody there, I said, do we have a service center that does that? I know we have collision, but I'm not sure Town of Lima even has a repair station anymore. And one went out of business right by my house, ATC, that I used to go to. We don't have them. So,
What do you have down by Corby's Collision? In that countryman?
you're right. Yep, there is one. Yep, but on opposite ends of town.
Both small scale, right?
Yep,
Both are-
yep, you're right, yeah. That's why I asked. I said I asked. I didn't state. I asked everybody in the room.
Yeah, having an issue as well. It's not obvious.
Rural character preservation, because no new buildings are being proposed, no expansion of impervious surfaces planned, landscaping will be improved, lighting will comply with existing standards. I can't stress that one enough. Lighting, we really want to, and I said in the pre-app meeting, we want to be sensitive about that. Lighting is a surefire way to not be a good neighbor. When businesses close by with residents, be sensitive to lighting. The rural visual character of this corridor will be preserved and improved relative to its current state of disrepair. So again, let's not let, this is an opinion, let's not let perfect get in the way of better. And I think this is clearly going to be better to have a maintained property serving the community. Efficient land use, reusing an existing commercial site avoids pressure to convert productive farmland elsewhere in town. This aligns directly with the comp plan policies discouraging unnecessary sprawl. In total, the project is consistent with and advances the stated goals of the Town of Lima Comprehensive Plan. There's a lot to chew on there. Does anybody on the board want to add, amend, comment?
As long as it does all those things.
Thank you for writing this all up, by the way. This is incredible. That's a lot of stuff to
Well,
have
this
to
is-
put all on our own.
This is what this is specifically laid out by New York State Department of State. These are the criteria, this is what we have to go to the comp plan, look at what the comp plan says and make sure that we're following the comp plan. So all I did was, I didn't create anything here, I just pulled it out of the comp plan in response. Environmental review, I do, so the proposed action constitutes a type 2 action, the reestablishment, it's a minor alteration, no expansion of footprint. This just basically goes through SECRA, what SECRA says as far as how to process this. A negative declaration is appropriate, so we are going to go through the short form. We are going to do that. One has already been created but it's actually a step that we have to go through. We actually have to complete one, even though, and looking at the chairman of ZBA, we are not lead agency on this. So you will be lead agency on the environmental form. But we have to go through one too. So we basically, what we're doing is, we're saying, here's what we think, and we will be providing it to you in our report. So we will go through that, and we'll finish going through this, and then we'll go through a couple of those forms you have to go through. Site plan review, we've got some maps. Site plan review, did you happen to pull it, you said you were gonna get a phone, Google Maps or?
Oh, yeah, so I did not actually print one out, but, I can pull up like the before and after, so to speak, current state of affairs.
Because basically, he's not making any improvements, so there really isn't much to look at, other than, I did find one thing, I'm gonna kind of jump ahead, we'll come back to this. You do have a riverine, you've got a creek on the back of the property.
Okay.
It's just something that we're gonna want to include for them to consider regarding distance to the creek. That's it. That's the only thing I ran into that, from a mapping perspective, because I went to the UEC mapper, and then I also went to Chris for some of the other archaeological or historical things that I have to look for. We'll include that in the report as far as making sure that there are no issues there with proximity to water. Because it is a tributary, it's tributary of the Genesee River, eventually. So, site plan, property boundaries identified, it's pre-existing, the lot's not changing, existing structures identified, they've been there for a very long time. No new structures proposed, no new paving or impervious surfaces, existing access maintained, he's not adding a driveway, he's not putting in a circle driveway, he's not changing traffic patterns in any way. This is true? Okay. Lighting compliant with town code, no new signage proposed, just resurfacing the sign that already exists. Landscaping improvement, utilities, existing and unchanged. All utilities, you're not having to add new power.
No, it's already up to spec, yeah.
Right. Septic system, new septic system.
Existing.
Existing.
Everything's the current infrastructure. There's really nothing else I'll be doing, other than the landscaping that you said.
Yep. Neighbor notification has been completed, and county referral completed. So the finding is the application materials satisfy the town's site plan submission requirements for a special use permit. Impact assessment, this is just an overall view. Impact category traffic. We believe the assessment's minimal, consistent with the historic use. Really, it's a raise, not making changes that are going to be anything that this neighborhood hasn't experienced in the past. Noise, limited to normal daytime business hours. I can't stress enough, just like lighting, when I said lighting, noise is also going to be a way to be a bad neighbor outside of normal hours.
Luckily, I own a lot of property next to the shop, so you can't really, there's not really anybody to hear anything. You can't hear anything over the semi-trucks going down 15A anyway.
Lighting, no expansion, stormwater, no increase in impervious surface. Keep in mind, as I kind of check off all this stuff, you did say at some point you may add, I just want to put a placeholder in for, when you do make improvements, you're going to want to check in with the town and make sure that, if you reach a threshold with site plan, you're getting an endorsement from this board, you may get an approval from the ZBA. If you significantly change a site or use, physical characteristics of the site or use in the future, you may have to come in front of the board again. This isn't just because somebody said one time.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Is
Yeah,
that include heating?
probably. right? I think that was one of the uses. That was one of the first things we checked out.
It will be, paving will be included. One of the things I was going to bring up at some point here, is we're saying in here, no increase in impervious surface. Just to be clear, you talked about stone.
It's already there.
And it's
There's
already,
like
so you're
8
just
foot
putting
of
stone on the stone, so you're good.
I'll probably actually back drag it. Like there's literally like 8 feet of stone in my lot, so I'm just trying to dig
So
out.
it's already there,
some-
okay.
I'm just
Yeah, the
trying
big
to
thing is a
dig
lot
out.
of times people think that stone is considered pervious, but it's not.
No, it's not,
But
yeah,
it's-
100%, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yes,
That's a
sir.
good
No,
answer.
yeah, I
But
understand.
no
that.
expansion. That's
Yes,
the thing.
correct.
The
No, I'm just
footprint-
gonna back break it, you know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
take it up, turn it over. And
So the
walk it off.
DEC already tells stone and pervious, they count it as
Oh,
impervious.
okay.
Just so you know, so.
Agricultural resources, no expansion into farmland, so there's no ag resources that are being encroached upon. Community character, restoration of a historic commercial use, property values, likely stabilization and improvement through site rehabilitation. Essentially, a well-maintained property is going to increase the property value. It's already, there's already a big sign that says JP Imports, it's already a commercial looking building. A well-maintained one is better than a one in disrepair. The proposal presents negligible adverse impacts and potential positive economic and aesthetic benefits. Conditions of mitigation. Should the zoning board of appeals approve the special use permit, the following reasonable conditions are recommended by the board. So board members, please, as we go through these, any new ones that come to mind, let's have a discussion. We can add to this. Again, this is just a draft. This was a first cut at this. We can add, we can amend. Reasonable hours of operation, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. No expansion of building footprint without further approval. I just addressed that, just so you're clear on that. No additional exterior lighting beyond what complies with town code. No new signage without separate permit approval. So if you do want to change something significant with the dimensions of the sign, new sign, check in with the CEO. All automotive fluids stored and disposed of in compliance with New York State DEC requirements, and whatever, I'm not familiar enough to whatever motor vehicle state regulatory,
Yeah, they probably have a whole nother checklist for it.
whatever it is,
Yep.
this board wants you to comply with all
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Landscaping improvements to be maintained in good condition. No outdoor storage beyond existing designated areas. So don't start cutting down trees and putting them in a junkyard or, you know.
That already was.
That's, well, I actually saw a historic picture. Yeah, I think you shared them when that used to be.
It's much better, that's what I'm saying.
900 cars or whatever.
Yeah, it has like 500 cars.
500 cars, whatever it
Yeah.
was.
There's that old aerial photo.
Just,
From 1948.
the board is being very clear, we're giving an approval based on you sitting there saying,
Not a
I'm
junkyard.
not doing this, I'm
Yeah.
not doing this, I'm not doing this.
Correct.
It doesn't give you the latitude to start.
What prevented Lima from enforcing that before?
Nothing.
When it was a
His
junk,
grandfather did. They couldn't do anything.
they couldn't enforce it.
No, because he was there well before the town zoning.
Now, is this considered a non-existing non-compliant pre-existing use building?
Not anymore,
Not
because they
conform.
they
Local laws
rezoned
are
it.
best.
So
Now it's conforming.
If
how does it become conforming?
If I.
First of all, I'm pro-business, so I'm not here
Okay,
to turn you
could
down.
could I please get through this, and I will open up the floor to public comment, okay? Thank you. These conditions ensure continued compatibility and compliance, so everybody on the board. Any thoughts on more detail, amending any of those?
I'm always happy when I see if there's gonna be improvements and everything. Are we gonna see them? Are we gonna see what the idea is, like the landscaping specifically? Because we've had a lot of people who said they're gonna do great things, and that's a matter of opinion.
Okay.
So we'd like to at least know what you're planning to do.
So, I mean, I don't know if
Do a
this,
sketch.
did you see it before?
Yeah.
Yeah, so not that. I'm assuming you can clearly see where I made improvements. Like I'm not gonna put up like a bunch of stupid posters.
You want to know what
you know what I mean?
kind
I'm looking-
I want it to be clean and like I'm not gonna put up a bunch of trees or flowers or something.
You're not going to?
No, I don't.
So what
I
do you
just
mean by
plan on
landscape
making it.
improvements?
Well, he's the one who suggested that.
Oh.
He's the one who said you're going to have to make landscape.
Well, I mean, instead of 3 foot high weeds and, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to keep it
overgrown
nice
trees
and manicured, so to speak. You know, I don't per se want like a bunch of trees because that's going to inherit the ability to get cars in. You know, right now it is a parking lot in the front and in the back. I plan on not having overflow. Like if there's anything, most of the time, like people will park in front, they'll drop their car off, and everything will go to the behind of the building for the night.
So this is really talking about maintenance of the landscape. This is not a landscape improvement.
Well, because this is also not a site plan review, so we're not.
Right, but if we're gonna say that, those words, I think we need to change it.
Okay,
I mean, realistically, I will maintain
Landscape.
nice landscaping, but I don't plan on altering it like adding shrubs. Or
As a
something.
landscape architect, I wanted to hear you were gonna put some trees.
Yeah, well, you can probably come help me out with it. It'd be much better than what I would come up with. Yeah, exactly. I would look like garbage, man.
But I just wanna make sure that we're clear on what anybody that reads this is anticipating that means, right? So if it's maintenance, that's fine.
And again, if we want to make recommendations, we can make recommendations, the ZBA will consider
Can decide what they want to
recommendations.
do.
But we're not,
Right, that's
we're not approving the site plan. So,
Could he put ornamental grasses down the front up there, or would that be bad?
You can do lots of different things.
Well, if he got some free
Oh, are you gonna give them stuff? Is that what's going on?
grasses,
I think we're off the record now.
Give me something that can't make me cut. Something protected by the environment, you know?
okay, get this back on track. Findings and recommendation, board, any others? Any others besides that clarification? Okay. Findings and recommendation after review, the Town of Lima zoning code, local law number 1 of 2026, the Town of Lima comprehensive plan, Livingston County Planning Board determination, secret criteria, site plan materials, and impact analysis. The planning board finds that the proposed motor vehicle service station is permitted within the general business district overlay as special use permit. The use is consistent with the comprehensive plan and supports economic revitalization. The proposal will not adversely affect public health, safety, or welfare. Environmental impacts are minimal and non-significant. The project represents reinvestment in a historically commercial property. Accordingly, the planning board recommends approval of the special use permit for Golden Automotive, subject to the conditions outlined here. So there was one little amendment.
Well, do we want to hear comments, just in case it sparks a different?
Oh, absolutely, because we also have some other,
Yeah.
we've got some other business to go through here. I want to go through the environmental form quickly. So does the proposed action involve only legislative adoption? That's a no. It involves more than legislative adoption. Does the proposed action require a permit, approval, or funding from another governmental agency? Yes. The ZBA special use permit, that's a yes.
You want to tell everybody where you're reading from?
I'm sorry, short environmental assessment form,
item 5.
part 1, item 5. Thank you, Charlie, item 5. Total acreage of the site, I will add that, it's on the map, I hadn't added that. Because we will provide, the one in your packet was one that was a short form that was prepared, I believe, back when this was a variance, or with this latest application, I'm not sure.
It was back when it was a variance, but he came in and re-signed it
Okay,
January 15, 2026. The only change was number 5, the first one on page 2, that he crossed out no and put yes.
yep, that's
It's a
right, I have
proposed
yes.
action
So,
Permitted use under the zoning regulations,
Yep.
now it is, so it's yes,
Right.
consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan, now it's a yes.
okay, we have to go, as a board, we have to go through one of these. We're gonna do this and provide it with the report and say, we went through this. But the ZBAs will be, they are the agency of record for this action. Check all land uses that occur on or adjoining or near the proposed action, agriculture and residential suburban. Anybody see any others they think that apply that I didn't get there?
Which ones did you have?
I have agriculture and residential suburban.
So everything else around it, there's not any rural, non-agricultural, just to be clear.
Well, our options would be here forest. There isn't a commercial property. Forest, that would be the only, and you probably know better than me as far as what.
I don't know the
on
site law,
forest.
unless you ask me.
There's trees, but I don't know if that makes it a
Oh, there's not
forest.
forest. Is it hedgerows and stuff? Yeah, that's agricultural. Okay.
The back of your land is trees on it, and then behind that's Lodge's Farms?
Yeah, it's a cornfield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'll check forest, it's fine. I just don't want it forest, like down.
Well, I would say you check rural, non-agricultural.
Oh, I skipped over that one, I should have. Rural non-agriculture, yes, that is absolutely appropriate. Number 5 is the proposed action, a permitted use under the zoning regulations. That is a yes now. That's what Charlie was just saying. Initially, it was a no. Local law passed with an overlay district that now allows it with a special use permit issued. B, I wanted the board's thoughts on this. Is it consistent with adopted comprehensive plan based on everything we just went through? Does everybody agree that's a yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 6, is the proposed action consistent with the predominant character of the existing built or natural landscape? Is that a yes? I didn't want to answer that one. I want to go through the report and then let you decide.
It's really hard because it is existing, so,
It's
yeah,
existing now, so it's.
right?
There you go.
Didn't
Fill
want
out your own forms, then you'll know.
I wrote the draft, I didn't want to, I want to let everybody.
It says existing built, so
Yeah.
that's good.
Number 7, is the site of the proposed action located in or does it adjoin a state-listed critical environmental area? That's a no. I actually referenced, the DS. Yep, a mapper.
Favorite thing.
Where's my mapper? Here's my mapper. So, just to keep everybody up to snuff, New York State DEC Environmental Resource Mapper. I had everything turned on regarding wetlands, protected species, unique wildlife, everything. There was nothing other than the tributary that does run through that property, so I do want to put a note in the report somewhere that the ZBA, since they're the lead agency, the ZBA should verify setback to that creek, and that, because I don't know anything about motor vehicle repair station, fluids, blah, 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 proximity setbacks to water, I don't know, but we'll put that in as something that should be looked at. But there were no other concerns, environmentally, on the DEC mapper. Number 8, will the proposed action result in substantial increase in traffic above present levels? What's the board's belief?
No.
B, are public transportation services available? No, they are not. Are any pedestrian accommodations? No. Number 9, does the proposed action meet or exceed state energy code requirements? If the action will exceed requirements, that's a no.
So it's a yes.
Oh, does the proposed action meet or exceed?
So you're saying it meets it?
Yes, sorry. That's why I'm asking you guys to read through it.
Yep.
Will the proposed action connect to the existing public-private water supply? Well, it is a private water supply, so it's a yes, but it's not changing, but yes, it connects to.
Yeah.
It's already.
Because if we say no, it's like, where else are you getting the water?
Where else?
Yeah, okay. I didn't know if it meant like I have to be connected to.
The next one is, will the proposed action connect to the existing wastewater utilities? That's a yes, existing. Does the project site contain or is substantially contiguous to a building, archaeological site, or district which is listed on the National or State Register of Historic Places, or that has been determined by the Commissioner of the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation to be eligible for listing on the State Register of Historic Places? That's a no. I checked that with Chris.
When we say part 5, all in 5% of the 6, it's a difference.
Chris? And the next question as well about, oh no, it's the next one. Yeah, sensitive archaeological sites. I did that. I've turned on all layers. All sensitive archaeological is in gray shading. Historic register buffers are all outlined. There's the subject property. Not encroaching in any of that. Does any portion of the site of the proposed action or land, so those were both no's, by the way. Any portion of the site of the proposed action or lands adjoining the proposed action contain wetlands or other water bodies regulated by federal, state, or local agency. I put down Riverine DEC mapper, yes. And so that would be forwarded as part of the report to the ZBA to deal with. Yes, I did.
The second one's no, right?
Yep, second one's no. With the proposed action, yeah, physically alter, that's a no on the second one. Number 14, identify the typical habitat types that occur on, are likely to be found in the project site. I checked agricultural, grassland, and early mid-successional. Any thoughts on any more than that? Don't think so. Does the site of the proposed action contain any species of animal or associated habitats listed by the state or federal government as threatened or endangered? That is what I was referring to also on the DEC mapper. I also had turned those on. You'll see some of those in shading here and over here. Nothing here other than none of that. Nope. Nothing other than the creek that was already addressed. Is the project site located within a 100-year floodplain? No. Will the proposed action create stormwater discharge either from point or non-point sources? No. Will stormwater discharges flow to the adjacent properties? No. Will stormwater discharges be directed to established conveyance systems, runoff, storm drains? No. Does the proposed action include construction or other activities that will result in the impoundment of water? No. He's not creating any retention pond, wasted leaves, dams, any of that. Does the site of the proposed action or an adjoining property in the location of an active or closed solid waste management facility? I put no to the best of any resources I had. Has the site of the proposed action or an adjoining property been the subject of remediation? Same conditions. To the best of my ability, I don't have any records that show that existing. I put down no. That's it. Any other thoughts on that, or is the board okay with providing that?
Does the remediation, you said all those cars were pulled out of there a long time ago?
Yeah, they took them before we bought them. Yeah, they didn't want to give us all that money.
I see you're able to store 15 cars. Where, is that what it started?
That was just kind of like an intro. I don't really know what you guys would be looking for. I don't know if that would be your board or the zoning board, but like 15 cars seems like a reasonable amount of cars to have in front of the building because, you know, I want to have enough room for people to drop off. I don't plan on leaving them out front because I'm going to have them in a security section behind the building, so to speak. But you know, I don't want to necessarily get in trouble if I have like a couple cars out front. I feel like that's pretty typical of this business. You know, if the shop fills up, you pull one in behind your lift and you work on the next one while you're waiting. But I really don't think that's going to affect anything as far as that goes. But I think 15 is a good number. I mean, if anyone, you know, jumps at it, you know, I guess we can talk about it.
It's more the, a lot of times that we like to see, like, what is your actual vision for it? Like, where do those 15 go? If they're all 15 in the front, or if that's, like you said, there's some in the back, some in the front.
Yeah, so like I have about, I want to say at least an acre of clear gravel behind the building, roughly. So that's generally what I will be doing, is have people conveniently able to drop off up front, come talk to me in the front, I'll take their key, and then I'll park their car behind the shop when I get around to it, you know.
That's great.
Oh, cardboard people will drop your car off in the way and pick it up and wait.
So typically, a lot of the big scheduled jobs would be drop off the night before, stuff like that.
For one.
Yeah, it's not going to be outside for very long. I typically wouldn't see a car sit there for longer than if they dropped it off in the morning, maybe I didn't get around to pulling it around until the end of that night, but typically I don't think the same car would be outside at all.
Any other questions for Mr. Ray by the board?
One other question. Is the septic system been inspected?
Yeah, they had to sell it.
Okay, so you're sure the lead shield and everything's okay?
You're allowed to ask as many questions as you want.
No, I know, I just.
Don't feel bad about
I know
it.
that something needs to be.
No, it's a good point. Okay, if we don't have any more questions on the board, I'd like to open it up to the public. Everybody else set? To open to the public, just please state your name and then go ahead and ask any questions of the applicant or the board.
My name is Mark Amaris. I think you and I talked about a year ago. I was, by the way, not notified by anybody about any of this. The only reason I'm here is because when I drove by your shop there, I saw the coming soon sign, and it kind of concerned me a little bit. And like I said, I'm pro-business, okay? I'm not here to shut you down. I just need to know what's going on. I bought the Pamper Farm a little over a year ago, which is that farmhouse just before you get to Chase Road on the left, 2483. And we've been working on that hard for the last year. We've put new roofs on all the buildings. We've had it professionally painted. We've put in water systems. So I'm making a big commitment financially to this property. And I want to make sure there's some guardrails here, so that now it's my understanding that that property at one point was a pre-existing non-conforming building. And I understand the abandonment rules and all that. And I know it hasn't been operated for a shop for quite some time. JP, John Payne, who I knew personally, he used to work on my cars, he's been gone for probably close to 4 years now. And I don't think anybody operated out of there since he passed away.
So actually there was two gentlemen that operated out of them. There was a gentleman named Mark, and then there was a gentleman named Steve.
But were they operating as a business or like operating out of a garage, like out of their backyard?
So they were still under JP Imports at that time, yes.
Okay.
The problem is they never fixed what the town told them to, because the town came to them and basically it was John's niece and I believe another family member of John's that were kind of like renting the shop out to this guy kind of
Right.
thing. But he was still under the JP Imports name at that time, so he was quote-unquote conducting JP's business.
Okay.
However, that stopped when they couldn't sell the house, sat abandoned for 9 months to a year, whatever, got rezoned.
Right. Because that's my biggest concern, is that JP was out of control. I went to school with JP, he was a good friend of mine. We'd sit out back, we'd have a cigar, but that shop was a little out of control. It did not look good. And so it's no longer, it was never zoned commercial. Is that my understanding? It was never zoned commercial?
It is.
It is, I'll answer it. It is zoned agricultural.
Yeah.
Local Law 1 of 2026, the first law passed, created an overlay district. Overlay districts modify the base district.
And what properties are included in that district?
It's actually on a map. The engineered map is not up yet, but you have it? Yeah.
I think it's 5 properties.
So is it just the yellow ones?
Yeah.
No, I saw that, I just.
So it does not go all the way to Chase Road, is that correct?
No, it was our intention to. However, I reached out to you in order to get a signature or like a letter of some sort. I emailed you, and I didn't receive anything back before I went to the town board.
Right, I never got an email, but, another concern I have is that a lot of these properties, it's my understanding, I have 5.2 acres. So if I wanted to subdivide my lot, I'm in an agricultural district, I would be required to have 2.5 acres, is that correct? With 200 feet of frontage?
I don't know.
That's my understanding.
That's correct.
And then,
Right.
200.
So now we've got a bunch of properties that are in that district that aren't even a half an acre. So in other words, you have a couple of abandoned trailers, you've got the house that burnt down, so you've got all these structures there that, so a couple of them aren't even inhabitable. What happens when they pull those structures off those lots? Are those now substandard lots, and they can never be built on again? If I'm required to have 2.5 acres for a building lot, if they take those old trailers off those individual lots, and some of those lots are 1 acre, 3/4 of an acre, a half an acre, what do you do with those lots?
So the general business overlay would actually allow the people that buy them in order to open a business on that lot.
Even on 1/4 of an acre?
I believe, but obviously if you go through the right channels.
Yeah, I wouldn't, wouldn't take that as authority.
So if I have to comply to the 2.5 acre requirement, if they take a trailer off an existing lot and it's only 1/4 of an acre,
Well, at that point,
what would you do?
at that point, basically, you're looking at a variance. Yeah.
I think that the lots that were created prior to the zoning code are grandfathered.
It's pre-existing, that's a pre-existing, right.
My neighbor has a 1.5 acre lot,
Yeah.
and he built a house.
Or he did recently?
Well, the house was built probably 20 years ago. It
Right.
was within the current zoning, but it was previously not conforming lot.
But once as long as the existing structure stays there, it can stay indefinitely. But once that structure comes off,
The foot,
now
actually,
you have to conform.
I've sat in a ZBA hearing where there was a .6 acre lot, and they were seeking a variance because they were increasing the footprint of a building, of a pre-existing building. That required a variance. If they would have stayed on the same footprint, they could have rebuilt that structure. Even though it's a .6 acre, it's well under 2.5. Can't go back retroactively and penalize somebody that.
But zoning doesn't allow you to put a mobile home on lots anymore in Lima. So once those mobile homes come off, now you don't have an existing footprint unless you want to build a 14 by 70 house or a 14 by 60 house.
I think that would be true, but I think whoever builds on it will have to comply with the setback requirements.
Right. So what I'm saying is you may have these individual lots that nobody could ever use.
Maybe, but they can also come into the ZBA and ask for a variance for a setback, which I know the ZBA has granted in the past. So it depends on the hardship.
If they're close. If you need 2.5, but they're 2.3, but if you need 2.5, and they're only 1/4 of an acre,
But again, if
that's a different ballgame.
Pre-existing lot, it's already sunk now. Now you're talking about
I was just about to say, we need to,
As a order,
is this, are we talking about this to get to something specific about this application?
Yeah, I just need to understand where this is going, because if I feel as though my investment's not protected, I'm gonna pull the plug on my project and just get my money back and get the hell out of here. Because I'm not gonna put $400,000, $500,000 into a house, and then I got a problem. You know, that's why you have zoning, for protection.
Well,
That's all I'm saying.
you made a point.
And I'm pro-business, I'm not here, I want you to be successful, but I need to make sure my investment's protected.
But the properties marked between your place and his proposed business, I mean, he doesn't have control over those, you don't own them.
Yeah,
right?
not to mention
I
it's
mean,
also.
we're talking in theory what might happen in the future, but it pertains to his business. And I know exactly the properties you're talking about in between, with the trailers and stuff. But I don't think we can affect that tonight, and neither can he.
I think that's also.
I think it's a valid concern what we have, but that's not what we're really, what we're working on tonight, or that he can even affect.
I don't think you guys can assume the prejudice of any form of misconduct, so to speak.
No.
You know what I mean? I think that would be
If
unfair.
it's specifically about your project, that's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
we talked about.
Notification is too late.
And if you're meeting their existing, that's right. Code.
That's what I'm saying, yeah, I've done everything I can to be within compliance with the code, not to mention the local law conduct, you must be right in compliance.
But I think Mark does have a valid concern, you know how bad it got with JP, that
Oh, yeah.
he doesn't want to see that happen.
100%. I just don't want people assuming because I bought the place and it's an agent to him, I don't want prejudice. I have nothing to do with that family.
based on whatever the threshold is, based on.
And I'm not assuming that.
So this is. Right. So I just wanted to clarify regarding notification, because you brought that up earlier. You were not part of the abutting property notification because you're outside 500 feet from this property. So I just wanted to answer that since you brought that up. Yeah. And we also followed all legal notice as far as newspaper, website.
I have a question. What about the overlay, the new law that went into effect? So that impacts our,
Well, the overlay runs right up to my property.
exactly.
Right up to the lot line.
Right.
So somebody can open up a dog kennel next to my house?
Right, so my question
You know,
is,
come on.
how does that happen? Maybe this is a question for somebody else, but
That's a town for the
Yeah,
legislative branch. We did not write, we didn't,
yeah,
So that's a
I
question for
know, I
legislature.
didn't know about it until I was told too, and I'm just curious, like from a person that lives right next to this overlay, wouldn't really need to be The town didn't notify notified? anybody. The town just told me this and sent me the law, which is in item number 3 in her packet that I gave you. And, I mean, he wasn't I work here, and I didn't know about it until it ever happened. He wasn't notified, and
Do we know what the conditions are of the overlay? I mean, what's an allowable use within the overlay?
Yeah. I don't know what it is.
I think it's in your packet. a little bit.
If anything, we have.
Yeah, item 3, is anything in general business.
And is that listed out there?
No, but I didn't, it's in, E-codes in town of Lima, E-codes, on our website.
But that might be helpful if they knew.
Yeah, so.
Well, I've got it. I know it's
That
permitted
rule is
use.
established by the,
Yeah.
well,
It
town
was
and village.
adopted in January, but it was presented in December.
So to help,
I'm
Mark,
assuming
that's the group
correct
that
process.
to talk to. Only because we didn't even come up with it. It's just-
Yeah, you'd come to our town board meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's on
We
Monday?
have representation here.
Yeah.
Monday?
No, it's first Tuesday of every month.
Okay, all right. Like I said, Bryce, I'm pro-business. I want you to be successful. I have no problem with you opening, but I need some protections here.
I think, to be honest, man, you have 5 properties in between us. I don't think there's.
Which are all disaster areas.
I know, but I don't.
I know you don't.
If I could unburn that house, I would.
But if
Please
they
send
can get
another
away with
time,
that, well, if they can get away with that, what else can they get away with? That's the thing.
then why do you live in a place like this? You want to be in your own area. You want to have, peace.
And again, Mr. Amorese, that's why we prepare the report we do to help inform the ZBA, to look, we spent a lot of time tonight to try to go through, here's what you need to do, here's what you can't do, if you're gonna do this in the future, there are regulatory barriers, like if he wants to, 6 months from now, put in a 3-story building, and he wants to put in 4 bays, and he wants to put a racetrack in the backyard, he has to come in front of this board with a site plan review.
Everything I do goes.
Or just do it and hope that you shut them down.
Well, I would also say, it doesn't even have to be that big of a deal. If you want to have
Because I've been through it many, many times.
one expansion, he would have to come here.
Right.
It's not that.
I was giving
He's
you
giving you the big story, it could be little.
Yes,
Based on
it could be little.
Sure.
It could be little. If he wants to make a small change to the site plan,
That's what the overlay did. The overlay basically puts me into this.
And I wish they had included me in that overlay district.
I tried, man. I sent you an email. I called you several times.
Never got it.
And-
Never got a registered letter, never got an email, because believe me, I'm on top of things.
I will be honest. I don't send letters. I'm a little young for that.
and again, I want to be clear, this board is not making a decision here today. This
I know.
board- Right. So you have another opportunity as ZBA, we'll make the decision on this. You have an opportunity to appear before that board. Who's
Okay,
making
all
the
right.
decision.
Like I said, I'm not against it. I'm all
No, you're.
pro-business, I'm
by all means,
pro-business,
yeah.
but,
It's a public hearing. Yeah.
they would have given me more options with my property if the overlay district continued right to the corner,
If you,
right? Right to the corner of Chase?
You could seek that.
For your future.
You still can?
The same way that he came for the overlay.
General business overlay is already created. Now you go to the board.
And ask for it to be
Ask for it to
extended.
be expanded to include your property.
I mean,
Because now it won't be spot zoning if you're one property.
That's what you want to do.
You'll be able to
Yeah.
join it.
we're not gonna fight that.
Because I know the people on the corner are getting
At
ready to
least I
build a brand new
imagine.
house there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I wonder if they're aware of all this. I mean, they're building a pretty substantial sized ranch there. So,
I'm going to volunteer an opinion because this board has heard me say this before. I'm generally in favor of always expanding larger corridors on main highways like that as far as giving flexibility, because I believe it supports the comprehensive plan to give people flexibility on major highways, major corridors. That's what's going to prevent the erosion of rural characters when you start getting commercial pop-ups in the middle of secondary roads, tertiary roads, dirt roads, in the middle of a farm, contiguous farmland. It makes sense to actually expand corridors, and also keep in mind the legislation that was created requires a special use permit. It's not allowed by right. And that's a significant difference. If you have a base district that says these are the approved uses and it's by right, you don't have any recourse to get up and make a case for, I'm an abutting property, I'm a neighbor, you don't get a chance to go in front of the board. This was created with a special use permit. Every single case is going to be considered on its merits, not by right. So you do get the ability to go make.
so does a special use permit continue with the property, or is it specific to them?
It's to me only. It's issued
So
to
if
me.
somebody wanted to buy that property down the road,
They would have to
they would have to
reapply.
reapply.
Yes. But the business district would not be harmed. It still exists. It would just be, you would not be in it until you go to the board and do all the fun stuff we did over the last few years.
All right. I've heard what I need to hear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'd like to say something. My name's Andy Matthews. I actually joined property with Braceway. And I also happen to sit on the zoning board. So I'm wearing two hats here, as a neighbor and as a zoning board member. So there's I've been wrestling with this whole concept since it was proposed. And I have to say, there's some conflicts within me. I mean, there's a risk involved, there truly is. We all knew what happened with John Payne. I also knew John Payne, and you're right, it was out of control. It's also true that, it's an opinion, it's also true that we live in a land of entrepreneurship. Somebody that wants to do something risky, wants to work for our community, that needs to be, I think, encouraged. That's my own personal view. Is it a risk to have a potential out-of-control thing right next to me? Yes, it is a risk, and my wife and I have discussed that. I personally think that, I don't think Bryce would do that. I assessed that, that's why I'm, I would say cautiously in favor of this proposal. I don't know what guardrails, to use your word, can be put on there. I think that's an important thing. I think that the most important question would be the future legacy of the property. In other words, if in 2 years' time, Bryce wanted to sell the place, and the new owner wasn't as conscientious as Bryce is, that's a real risk for us to inherit that. And I don't know what guardrails can be put on that, but that's a question that I think I would like to know. But in terms of concept, I personally have no objection to Bryce opening up a flower care place. I think he would be a good neighbor. He's already improved the property tremendously. I was inside that upper structure, and it scared me. It frightened me. And he mitigated that hazard. He truly did, and I think he did it well. So I think I have trust that he can continue in that vein, but I don't have trust that some future owner would continue in that vein. That's what I would like to have answered for me. And that, even as a zoning board member, I don't know the answer to that.
So to investigate the guardrails, some of the things we went through today were very specifically, regarding what we know about this proposal. Things like hours of operation, noise, light. I heard both of you say out of control. Previous operation was out of control. Could you help define that? Tell me point blank, out of control, how? Because that's how we could help recommend guardrails.
That's a really difficult thing to talk about, because as a neighbor, John, the relationship soured. I would say, if you knew John before,
I knew John, I went to school with him, I consider him a friend,
I did too.
but he became very, almost vindictive.
I believe that's, in other words, there was a personality change.
There were people in Lima that were rubbing him the wrong way, and he was putting cars out there left and right just to piss people off, and they did nothing about it.
Putting cars out there as far as like a junkyard
Oh, yeah,
situation.
yeah. He knew he shouldn't be doing it, but he was gonna defy everybody and do it anyway. And they never did a thing about it. And grandfathered or not, there should have been something that could have been done.
Sir, just so you know, about 20 years ago, the town board sued him.
Yeah,
They took him to court.
yeah, how'd that turn out? They never got those cars out of there until after he died.
They asked him to comply with certain requirements after that process. He just didn't want to do it.
Yeah,
Well, what are you going to do?
I don't know.
If you take him, you're saying that nothing was done, but something was done.
Well,
Okay?
you
take him
basically,
to court. The town has spent a lot of money for lawyers to take this man in court, try to get him to clean up the property. He
Right.
refused to do it. That's
Okay.
what you do. What do you do? What is your suggestion?
Isn't there enforcement?
No.
that's what I'm saying. How do you not,
How come other towns can?
other towns can enforce it.
If Charlie's going to do an enforcement action, he's going to take him to court, right, Charlie?
Take them to court.
Right, that's what you do.
And you had it done and put it on their tax bill.
Now they just passed a law that they can do that.
Also now you can actually penalize them.
If his grass, even his lawn, grows 3 feet high, they just passed a law that he's gonna get, like, I gotta send him 3 letters, and then they send the, town highway department over, mow his lawn, bill him if he doesn't, then he gets it levied against his tax.
That's evil.
It's not evil.
At what point does Lima,
It's how they solve
at
the
what,
cars being removed.
at what point can Lima just confiscate the property?
Never.
Well, I don't
You can't
think,
take the whole property.
I think you could, I think you could.
I have an idea, board, for maybe a condition. Do we want to think about recommending, because once again, we're not making a decision, we're recommending that some condition be put in about unregistered, not registered, not operating certain threshold number of vehicles. Basically, not customers' vehicles waiting to be worked on, but you can't have, essentially find a definition for junkyard. You can't-
So yes on that, however, stipulation in front of the building, because as a private owner, I don't think it should matter what's behind my building. I don't care if there's 100 broken down cars, if they're not on the side of the town, realistically, who's gonna hurt? You know, if I can save people money by pulling parts off of those cars, I feel like that's a good
You're
thing.
not applying to be a junkyard, are you?
No.
But you can't be a junkyard.
But what do you guys define as a junkyard? That's what I'm asking.
Can't put cars in the back.
100 cars in the back, that's what I consider a junkyard.
I mean, yeah, but every farmer in this town has 1 million tractors on their property that don't.
Yeah, that's a farming, that's New York State Ag and Market, you can't touch a farmer.
You can't do it.
You can't do that, that's completely different. All the rest of us are the same, farmers are completely different. Ask a farmer, right? He's got a lot of farmland, ask him.
You can test me.
I mean,
What's the board's opinion? Do you want to go down that road,
well,
back down that road?
I think that would be, I'm not on board.
No, you're not.
Because that addresses the issue that the neighbors are having.
Right.
And if you can limit that to the.
But also, did
The definition.
Bryce, didn't you say that
Coming up with it on the spot is.
when you sell the property, the new buyer has to come back?
Yeah, it's not, it's only something
Okay.
that's accessible.
Okay,
Oh,
so
we bring it up.
that
on the
was
ZBA.
his question, what happens when you sell the property?
Yeah, it also.
So maybe he
Maybe
needs
he
to
can
be
hear you.
sitting there.
You got that?
Get it for him within.
I think some guy will. I also think that he's not gonna break it. So I feel like. What's that? I just said he's going to? Well, I think we need to get some definitions. How do we want to set this up?
I think they should push the definition of it, because just like John Payne wasn't a Payne until he became addicted, and then just started putting cars out there, somebody might piss in his cornflakes and have the same thing happen.
Well, and again, it's not, it's not just him, it's.
Right, but when he sells the property, they gotta come back here and do the same thing, which helps his property value stage.
Yeah, but it's not, we're not saying any of this that we think you're going to do, but to
No, I understand.
preserve with the special use
But he
permit
just
for
said-
potential
He said he
future.
was gonna do it.
Right,
So just for clarification, who is saying that the future owner will have to come back before the zoning board? Is that a fact?
Yes, yeah.
That's certainty. Okay.
That was why the general business overlay even got approved, is because they put in the stipulation that any person has to go to the zoning board in order to join as a business.
Even a future use.
No matter what, it is only issued to the person that is active under, so I can't even transfer it. Like, if I wanted to rent the building to somebody, I would have to, like, give up my business, they would have to then file with the zoning board, they'd have to get it approved,
So in other
public
words,
hearing.
this business that you want to run, it stops
Yeah,
with you.
100%, yeah. Even if I were to have a child, like, I would still have to go to the zoning board and open it up there,
That's reassuring.
Yes, yeah.
Basically,
That's what they wanted. They wanted something like that. That's kind of what he's getting at. It's like, that's the guidelines. It's now there's a special use permit that can be given or taken away at any time.
what should they do?
And that's something.
Oh, really?
Oh. Okay. So, go ahead. So, question today was sent to the attorney regarding this whole question about do future property owners have to go in front of the board?
Yeah, I was told, yeah.
That's pending. So that, the lawyer's looking at that right now. So to reiterate, we tonight, this board is not deciding anything. We will get that will factor into our recommendation to the ZBA regarding what are the things the ZBA should consider in issuing a special use permit. So even as, hopefully, we're sitting up here talking about definition of junkyard and all this, you know what, at the end of the day, we could make it as easy on ourselves as a planning board to simply say, hey, ZBA, you should think about some limitation, guardrails regarding number of, junk vehicles or something. That could be the end of our recommendation. There's nothing saying we have to come up with a definition and we have to do everything. It's a recommendation as far as the issuance of the special use permit.
That's sort of the zoning board's job, basically.
Exactly.
That's our job. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And we're gonna, through this process, it's like we're a double check to say.
Now, who's the
okay,
town attorney, Jim Campbell?
Jim Campbell. Yep.
That's good.
Okay?
One thing else I wanted to comment on is that on the last zoning board meeting, there's a vacancy on the zoning board, so there's 6 people on filling the seats now. I made the 6th. So I decided at that meeting to recuse myself because I wanted an odd number of people voting. Well, it turned out that the zoning board unanimously turned down the special use permit before it was an overlay. This was probably what.
It wasn't a special use permit.
It was not?
No, it was a variance. It was a variance. A huge difference, yeah.
I thought it was a special use permit. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a use variance.
But it was turned down. So more than likely, if there's 6 of us on the board Monday night, I probably also will recuse myself. Because I am a neighbor, and my property touches his property, just as an aside.
Yeah, but just to clarify, the reason why it was turned down by the ZBA was because it was a use variance. The use variance would allow him to do this auto repair shop without going through everything he's developed here.
You know what? I'm
Getting
getting
a use variance.
I'm getting confused with a special use permit and the use variance. Yes, I think that's my.
A use variance has a much higher bar to clear than a dimensional area variance. Huge area variances. I want to be 8 feet when it says 10 feet close to the neighbor. Those are routinely issued. Use variances are very, very, very high bar to get over those because of many considerations that were brought up to that. Okay. think we have what we need as far as the report, our recommendations, the amendment we're making to it. Any other comments on this matter? No? Okay. That being said, thank you very much for coming tonight. Public, thank you for your input. I'm going to close the public hearing. That doesn't mean anybody has to leave, it's just as far as, it's back and forth.
Not mine, it's not mine.
All right?
Look like your neighbor.
Yeah, yeah. Stop by.
All right, I'll do that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, this is to be clear, what we're doing, this is a initial discussion, this is a preliminary, this is whatever you want to call it, pre-application, preliminary discussion with the owners of the chosen pot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Chosen pot, there's an S in front of it that shouldn't be there. The Chosen Pot Dispensary, potential expansion of use. So, there's that.
This is information I'm giving you, this is not information he's coming in.
Here we go.
This is why we're doing this.
Okay. I think I'm actually.
Parking, so I gave you the code about parking.
Okay, so, is it possible that you guys could change seats? So that they could, they're in the hot seat.
They're not down here.
Thank you.
Yes. Go ahead and introduce yourselves, give a little bit of background, just like you heard previously, as far as who you are, what you do, what you're proposing.
Absolutely. So, first of all, good evening. My name is Joseph Fermansky. This is my business partner, Michelle Pelicano. And last July, we purchased the property at 6669 West Main Road. And we have a New York State licensed cannabis dispensary. And if you're familiar with that property, the property is a beautiful property. The building is very quaint. If you haven't already visited it, please come in and say hello. Michelle runs the day-to-day operations at the dispensary, and it's been great. We're happy to come to Lima. We both live in Canandaigua. I've been in Canandaigua since 2009. I'm not sure how long. She's been there forever. So originally, the gentleman back here pointed out the name. He likes the name The Chosen Pot. Well, originally we had applied to be in Canandaigua, but we drew a very high number in the lottery. That's how they issue the licenses. And so we lost the ability to open in Canandaigua because someone got the license before we did, and so there's a proximity protection, and so we looked all over, but we eventually found the place where we're at, and we love it.
There's blessing in disguise.
Yeah. Good things come to those who wait, so we're very happy to be in Lima, and the property just screams the opportunity to do more than just the dispensary. One of the things that we'd like to do is set up live music events. We don't know the specificity of how many or how often. We are learning as we go along, but the opportunity is there. We have over an acre because we also own the lot adjacent to it, the lot that is east of the lot where the dispensary sits. So we'd like to be able to host live events, maybe some food trucks. we can probably accommodate, conservatively, 10 to 12 cars on our wraparound blacktop. There is some opportunity for more creative parking around the property. We have great neighbors, the Benjamins next door, John Benjamin, and then on the other side we have Countywide Glass. We've spoken to both of them about our intentions, and they've all been very supportive and very welcoming of our intentions. In fact, Countywide Glass has agreed to allow us to use their parking. We will likely want to host these events on the weekends, and they don't work on the weekends. And so there's probably another 15 to 20 parking spaces there. And then there's also on the other side, which is the adjacent lot that we own, that does get wet and it becomes a swamp. So ironically, I was at the Be Well Lima meeting, and John Skipdunas said, well, what are you going to do about that? Are you going to fill it in? And so that's a consideration for us to be able to fill that area in and maybe use it for additional parking. We've already spoken to John Benjamin, our neighbor, and he's very supportive of it. Again, countywide Glass has allowed us to use their parking. So that's the overall gist of our intention. We'd like to be able to draw people from the community and the community surroundings to the dispensary and host live events and food trucks. Did I miss anything? Yeah.
Okay. I have a couple thoughts as far as a little bit of research background that I did procedurally, flesh this out to facilitate conversation, because that's really all this is. Again, you're not making a decision, you don't have a formal proposal in front of us, just pre-application. Kind of, we're working towards how do we go forward. So, first thing I usually look at whenever a project is discussed is it even allowed use? Currently you're in retail use. It's you have your permits, you have a retail use. Interestingly enough, when I went into the code, I saw that another approved use in the general business district is places of amusement or assembly. And that is, in general, it refers to land uses where people gather for entertainment, recreation, cultural activities, civic events, or group functions. These uses are typically this is the important part. These uses are typically regulated due to traffic, parking demand, noise, occupancy loads, and public safety considerations. So you're already going down that road as far as, shared parking, filling it in. You know some site plan work is coming. So with those definitions, these uses are often grouped together because they involve larger periodic concentrations of people, public or semi-public access, potential impacts on surrounding properties, parking, lighting, noise, traffic. These, when you look at these types of uses, these are commonly allowed by either special use permit, the whole hearing we just had, not a special use permit, because of trying to protect the public, trying to balance rights of business owners, expansion, plan changes, entrepreneurship versus neighbors and being good neighbors. Conditional use permits, a little bit of difference between the special use and conditional use permits. Site plan review, which I have circled with a highlighter, and in some districts permitted by right. So permitted by right, you're permitted both retail and by right assembly. With the site plan review I highlighted, I think we're going towards a site plan review, because I think you're talking, you've checked enough of these boxes with things like traffic, public safety. You've checked enough boxes to say, we need to revisit the site plan, because and it is a beautiful building. The beautiful building as built, when it was approved, we've got significant enough changes that we're going to want to get a site plan review back in front of this board again. So I think that's where we're headed, Any thoughts on that by the board?
Absolutely.
Okay.
As soon as you start filling land or anything.
Yep, yep. So anything else in? Customers, price classification matters. So why this classification matter? So talking about site plan reviews, you just want to take mental notes, not the things we're going to be looking at in the site plan review, other than you can get the site plan review packet from Charlie. You know, he has that for site plan review. We're going to want to get you on the schedule for a future planning board meeting for a site plan review. That checklist articulates all of the requirements to do that site plan review. But just for your convenience now and for any discussion, again, pre-application, we're trying to get ahead of things. We want to prepare you as much as possible, so I want the board's input on any specifics of the topics I'm about to list. We are definitely going to want to know about traffic volume estimates and peak congestion times. If you're talking, you're talking weekends. How many people, how many cars would you expect? Like, we're going to look for estimates on that. We're going to want to get a good feel. 5 and 20. People drive 70 miles an hour on 5 and 20, right? I live on 5 and 20. On it. We're going to scrutinize. We want to be careful about people in and out. Parking demand. You've already talked about countywide overflow, adding new parking. Just a note that I'll throw in, kind of similarly to what I want thoughts from the board to add color to this. Anything you do with another business on another property, get covenants put together, get agreements on paper. Do not go down this road of just making a handshake deal and that those, don't do that. I get something in writing. Insurance, whatever you need to do, take care of that stuff. We'll be asking about that. Noise levels. You're going to have concerts, music, right? Think about the neighbors, the hours. There's going to be questions about hours of operation, what time of day, how long. We may put conditions on it, a certain time. You've got to knock it off by a certain time. Seasonally, I just think about more than, we think we want a concert. It's like, we're going to want to really make sure that you're being planful about this. Crowd management and public safety. We're going to have questions about security, lighting. We're going to want to make sure that the community's safe, that you guys aren't exposed. We're going to limit your exposure to liability, safe to the neighbors around you. Emergency access requirements. So in your plans, we're going to want a site plan drawing, right? You'll see it in the packet, the site plan drawing. This is not a napkin sketch. This is an engineered drawing, because we're going to want to see things like curb cuts, how many entrances, especially on 5 and 20. That's a state highway. There's going to be state highway implication. It's got to be done right. On that drawing, emergency access requirements in particular, we're going to want to make sure if there's a medical incident that, fire trucks, ambulances are means of egress, getting in, getting out. So as a result, we might be talking about things like, traffic impact. We have an idea where, traffic impact studies, and this is, just prepare for this. Expanded parking ratios, so make sure you have adequate parking, because again, 5 and 20, like, you're not going to want to overflow parking on the side of the road. That could be a really bad situation. Buffering and setbacks, pay very close attention to property lines. An hour of operations restrictions, I just kept coming up to you, like, just think about that. And be planful about it. Board members, any thoughts along those lines that you pop in your head as far as heads up in advance?
Lighting in there. Which I think you might have mentioned something about. Stormwater is going to be a big one, because if you are going to fill that at all right now, that water has to go somewhere, and it can't go onto other people's properties. So we'll have to do some kind of design, I won't tell you what kind, containment or something, but that'll be an engineer that'll need to sign off on that. So there's assurance by the board that it's not going somewhere else.
Sure.
I think also access, if you're thinking that everything is going to come into your existing access and back out, that's one thing, but if you're thinking of adding another entry point at all, that'll be DOT, you'll need DOT permitting and stuff for that as well. And then we said buffering, even though the neighbors are residential, are they considered residential there or commercial as well? The Benjamins? Okay. So since they're residential, the buffer, even though they're friendly to you, you'll still have to worry about a certain kind of buffering when you're going to have a business with more treatment that close to the property line. So they might be like, that's no big deal, but it kind of is.
Well, they spend enough time at
At your place? They probably want it flattened out so they don't have to walk through the water. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
So I didn't want to blow past it. I felt really good that I found in the code that the assembly, you're not facing a usage problem. You're not looking at a variance for usage. Which initially, when I first heard it, I'm thinking, ooh, you're going from a general business to wanting to do, potentially concerts and outdoor events, and like, ooh, is it? And then
Amusement is actually under that section, that area? Wow.
Yep.
I wonder if that's because of these.
Places of amusement or assembly. That's an approved use in the general business district. And then I went into the whole definition of, like, you can see exactly what it is. Entertainment, recreation, cultural activities, civic events. So usage, I don't anticipate that as a problem. That plus retail. But all of this other stuff, you're gonna, especially because of the location, you're gonna want to be wrapped up with, Andy said that stormwater, that area in 5 and 20, I don't know how familiar you are with it, but there have been significant stormwater issues in that stretch of 5 and 20. So I don't know the hydrology, I don't know but it's a serious consideration.
It's definitely gotten worse over the years, too. So you own the property where the big depression is then?
Correct.
Is that something, didn't that used to be part of the home? Like, was the residence there? I mean, a while ago. Maybe.
It's got a separate parcel map.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that is beneficial that it's resident.
Right. Yeah.
When's the last time you talked to Countrywide Glass?
Last week.
Okay.
I know where you're going with that. Yeah.
And I think
I didn't think it was my place to bring that up, so.
Okay.
But I'm fully
I
aware.
wanted to help you with that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm fully aware.
There. And I think the north property is also residential also. Doesn't your north boundary, wouldn't that be classified as residential also? North of your building,
Yeah.
right, that would be a residential lot.
Yeah.
It's not where we got two houses back there. Right? You know the houses?
See it?
I don't know, I haven't gone back there.
It's a vacant land, but it might be tied into the houses that's on East Martin.
Okay.
You had the house up there, which you had the old Castle Harbor place. So your place that you're in used to be a castle, it used to be a restaurant. Half on in.
Yeah.
Castle Harbor. So just north of that, just your north property, maybe you got to check out maybe some of the houses on East Market might come in that. So that's
Okay.
Well,
So that shows it's agricultural. Our high-tech maps. And our up-to-date.
So Did you? No. So, next steps, I outlined, you're gonna wanna come in site plan review, is what you're gonna wanna do. We're doing the site plan review, we'll get the packet, we can get, if you can get everything you need to get,
Right.
the drawing, that engineering stuff, I doubt you're gonna turn that around in a month.
In a month? Good luck.
I doubt it, just by the time.
Unless you have friends that are engineers.
Because
Yeah.
you'll see in the checklist, I can't, and I'm not gonna go through mentally everything in the checklist, but, you know, we gotta do a lot of the things that you saw I did
Yeah.
in the pre-app tonight, you know, things like environmental, cultural, you know, archaeological. You might be in one of those archaeological sensitive, and it could be, you need to get a survey or find if the survey's been done. It's all in the checklist that you can get. Good job.
Yeah, on the north side. The archaeological, on the north side of Pleasant Point is a lot of it.
I think I remember seeing clouds over there for that on the Chris report.
And you probably want to indicate, I'm sure you have a vision of, you know, I'm assuming this would be an outdoor, so you'd have a stage
Yeah.
of some type where the bands could play and where the food trucks could sit.
Right.
You know, I'm sure you have the vision of that. And then you mentioned, is it absolutely key to use your property next door for parking? Is that what you're thinking, like that has to be?
Well, I think the challenging part is we don't know what to expect in terms of attendance. You know,
That's the hard part.
it could be 10 people and it could be, you know, tenfold. So that's the biggest challenge. So on a regular, so far we've been open since November 8th, and I mean, our transactions can vary anywhere from 9 to 45. Now, I'm not sure if that means 9 vehicles and 45 vehicles that have come through the property. I was just looking at a report right now, so it varies from, you know, single digit to double digit. So now if we put music and food trucks, you know, will that double the amount of people, triple the amount of people?
Yeah, and you may want to consider, it's going to be real expensive to develop that land next to it. If you want to start on a small scale, I mean, I'm just recommendation.
No, absolutely.
Because you don't know how many people are going to turn out. You want a small site plan with the property you own right now around that building and utilize that
Right.
to start with.
Yeah, no,
Instead of dumping
absolutely.
a ton of money into, that's a lot to develop that land next to and fill it in.
Yeah.
And then drain water, you got to reroute, you know,
Yeah.
just an idea.
It's a great approach. You might want to consider a phased approach, which
Yeah.
other applicants have done
Right.
for us, right? A phased approach. Phase one, this is what we're proposing, this is what we're looking for an approval on.
Sure.
And then you have the discussion, just like you're having now, about phase two, we're thinking this and this.
Right.
And so consider that approach. To
Right.
commit to a certain amount, and then know
Yeah.
you'll have to come back to the board, you know, for
Right.
phase two, phase three, whatever.
But I think it all hinges on the number of attendees that we're expecting.
Yeah.
So that's what we're
And I
gonna
don't
have to.
foresee them as like attendants that are gonna, like, it's not like the concert you go to, there's alcohol and you hang out for 3 hours. It's, you know, gonna be people in and out more often. So I feel like it's gonna be, you know, not yet, and more revolving, not just people hanging there all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like a brewery, a lot of times you might have one person with acoustic guitar
Yeah.
Yeah.
singing, and you might have 10 or 15 people watching, then they
Yeah.
leave more
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
Yeah.
not an official concert,
Yeah.
like the
Correct.
place in Whalen where it's,
Right.
you know, it's an actual concert, they have big
Right.
bands.
Yeah.
Right. Right, yeah, I live near CMAC, so those are concerts, you know, where you have 20,000 people. When you said concert several times, I said, well, you know, it'd be nice, but I don't think we're prepared for that. It's more like live music, you know, and, but the question is, how many people can we anticipate showing up?
And do you plan during the day on the weekends or in the evening?
So our normal business hours, we cut back the hours during winter, but spring, summer, fall, they're gonna go from, what, 11 to 7?
Roughly 10 to 7. I mean, we're gonna kind of play it by year, but right now we're going with 10 to 7 come spring.
Yeah.
Within that time?
Within that time, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And we may have on any given day, we may have maybe 2 artists come, during certain times. I've spoken to several of the artists. They usually like a 3-hour block. So they'll come, they'll play for 3 hours, and then, they'll leave. So maybe the traffic will be just those 3 hours, And if we have multiple musicians that day or for a special event, then there might be multiple artists and longer hours. But it's just a way to draw people. Just to make you aware, there is a new dispensary opening up in Bloomfield. A new dispensary opened up in Honeoye Falls. So this is a way for us to differentiate ourselves. I think it's in Lima's also best interest that we succeed. So, and the property just lends itself beautifully for that type of an environment.
Is there any regulations on, so you sell cannabis, is there any regulations on use of cannabis in public? Because you're going to be, and if there is regulations, how would you regulate that? How would you police that?
So,
No, but it's funny, because I told her it's likely to come up, so be ready.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking, and I don't know that,
And just for my 2 cents, this is outside of, this is outside of our consideration.
So
That's
this was-
regulated by them.
So this is on the LCM, the Office of Cannabis Management. So when they initially did this, each municipality got to opt in for on-site consumption and retail sales. We don't actually know thus far what on-site consumption looks like, but we cannot, at this moment, we cannot have any on-site consumption unless we apply to the OCM and we get a approval from them, and it would just be like a specific 1 day or 1-time approval. And so we would just have to ensure that there's no.
So somebody tries to regulate it. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said municipality.
Yep, so like for instance, when Lima opted in, because they all got to choose to opt in, they opted in for both on-site consumption and retail sales. We're just, the OCM, I don't even think is really sure yet what on-site consumption will look like. Could be like hookah lounges, we don't know.
Hookah what?
A hookah lounge?
Even I know what that is.
So, just to be clear, we will not be delving into regulations. As far as the zoning board cares, it's an approved retail, it's a legal retail business, and it's followed under whatever I said about assembly,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. That's not regulations. Just like I told Mr. Way, the motor vehicle regulation, that's its own thing. Same thing with your regulation in your industry.
So going back to this gentleman's suggestion about phasing it, possibly starting off small and getting a lay of the land to see what kind of response we get, how would that look like when we come in front of
It's
us?
still going to be very similar to the
Yeah.
items that you do require. The biggest thing is if you are thinking you're going to phase it, you still want to have an idea of what the future looks like, because that'll impact what hoops you have to jump through, basically. Okay, so, because if you were to be like, well, we're never going to touch that other property, that's never been an intent, that's a totally different package, but it's still going to have, the engineers are going to have to check to make sure your stormwater, because it's going to add parking, right? You're making more impervious means more runoff. Well, it's got to go somewhere, you have to have somebody that designs that. But it'll be a smaller package of similar things, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I didn't want to speak for you, but you're having discussions, so sorry.
Far better than
Okay, good.
Anyway, as I said, one other thing about traffic. I live on Poplar Hill Road. My name is Mark Kowski, I live on Poplar Hill Road. I don't have any objection to businesses in this community. I wish there were more. The thing is that at that intersection with Markham, there's always been a parking problem. Okay, Easton's when they first opened, there were cars all over the place, and just 55-mile-an-hour zone, and people walking from the other side of the street on 520 across the road to get to Easton's. Okay, to me, there's no crosswalks, there's no lighting, It's dangerous at night, especially in winter time. And I think I mentioned to Charlie, I was concerned about it. And it became sort of a temporary thing, because they had opened, they were very busy, people were parking there all over the place, but then it's tapered off. But people still park on the other side of 520. Okay, and they still walk across the street. Okay, it's still dangerous, and you're gonna make it, you're gonna add to that, right? So I don't know how this board can control it, but if you do some kind of venue, you know, I go to musical events over at Town Walls in Avon. Okay, there are hundreds of people there. I go to Ramoni Park, the Canisius Park, there's hundreds of people there, okay? So you go to Fanatics down the street, there's not quite hundreds sometimes, but there can be a lot of people depending on the artist. So these are places that a lot of people can go to.
Right.
And if you're gonna have people parking up and down 5 and 20, you know, and saying, well, you know, we didn't know, okay, but are you willing to close the doors until you solve that problem? Because none of us want to drive through all that and kill somebody, right? And you're the one that's creating the problem by doing the business. And again, I don't object to your business. I don't want to smoke pot myself. I'd rather not have it in the world, but this is what you do, so I'm.
Well, we have dummies for you.
So I just want you to control the traffic.
Right.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's already a problem, you know, and it's just gonna get worse.
No, totally well taken, thank you.
So like I said, we plan full with the department, and give you a heads up on that. Is that it, from the board? Okay, okay, thank you very much for coming. Look forward to seeing your proposal.
Thank you. Thank you for everything.
I do want to back up, our wonderful secretary did point out that we did not continue a resolution on the report. So I'd like to.
Hey, you guys know.
Get a resolution that our board supports that report, and the amendments that we made. We made the amendment to maintenance on the landscaping. I think that was it. That's the only amendment. I read through the whole report. So I look for motion.
I'll make the motion.
All right, Amy makes the motion, a second on the motion, resolution to approve the report with the amendments noted. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Show that the resolution passed. Last item, just housekeeping for the board. Just a reminder, and for new members, we do have the 4-hour annual training requirement. In the past, we've always just said, as you get it, as you do it, send it to the town clerk, village clerk. I want to make sure that we're in compliance. So going forward, please get those to me. I'll pass those along. But I want to make sure that the board is compliant. We do have to get those 4 hours in for state law. I can give you resources to find where. And we're regularly forwarded an email. Does she have an email now? Okay. We get training sent to us that we forward out. Sharon forwards training opportunities all the time. Okay.
And it's usually pretty nice license to open to other types of trainings. Because a lot of times my professional training, I've been allowed to license.
Yes. And I do.
So we have to get to the credits of
They can keep pushing out the different types of training, because a lot of the training will be able to, so-and-so, Winston County based on the 2 o'clock, well, I work full-time.
Exactly.
I can't go to daytime training. It has to be online training, virtual, like we could do Teams. If they have those, or whatever, after hours would be great.
Yep. I will keep an eye out for you for New York Planning Federation. Does a lot of training where they'll do a webinar, but then they offer it. You can take it after.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That generally exceeds what I've seen from some of the, like state run.
What is,
It's really great.
what is that?
New York Planning Federation. It's a great resource in New York State.
Jim just sent one to me. It's MRG Engineering. offers training.
Yeah, I did, they had 1 hour seminars every month. We just had a secret one last month, this one is site plan, actually.
What's it called, MRB?
MRB, it's
I'll forward
a,
it to you.
they happen to be the engineers for a lot of communities, so there's part.
Yeah,
It's on trainings.
How much?
Lunch and learns.
They should be free.
They're free, yeah.
Yeah, you should never, don't pay for training. There's free training everywhere. Do not pay for training.
You know, on Facebook, there was a posting by, I think it's Joe, that he had gone to the Association of Towns people, and then there was some I texted earlier to see if he liked it, he didn't, but he thought he would get that information.
You were here, were you here when we had, someone from Livingston County?
Coming for our.
Yeah.
New York State.
Maybe it'd be time for her to come and talk about something else with us.
Yeah, we did that last year, the year before she came.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Jim set that up with Heather for her to come and then invite the planning board,
Yeah, that was great.
which, I would really like if the planning board and the ZBA board could meet together to help the applicants get things through quicker. I mean, you've done a report tonight, and it's not completely in writing, but wouldn't it be nice if the ZBA was sitting here and they could do their stuff and we could get through instead of it going on. And we are going to talk about at the ZBA changing their dates of their meetings so that you guys would have a meeting, and then on Monday they have theirs instead of vice versa. So there are those things, but the more things that you can do as two groups, I think is beneficial to the community. So we'll look to work with Heather to see if she wants to do some training. And
Yeah, I've got a note to talk to Heather about, somebody asked about seeker, actually, seeker. And she mentioned it last time we had her here.
Yeah, I would love to know what the regulations are for how deep we're supposed to go into check the secret. I mean, I think we do it plus, but legally, is it Charlie? Is it us? Because I know when you put on the applicant, you gotta trust the applicant's being honest. You need somebody to check that, right? So I would love to hear
Oh, how far they actually,
how deep we're supposed to dig, yeah.
like, confirm,
Yeah. Because we always go to Chris and DC Mapper and stuff, but I've found other communities where they don't do that. So I'm like, are we more hardcore or are we not as hardcore? It'd just be nice to know exactly what New York State says they expect, so.
Well, can't you fill that form out online too? Have you seen that?
Yeah,
I did it before.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it brought in, you put in the parcel number that brings in and tells you what the wetland is. Makes it, and a lot of it will answer
The question is, are
questions.
we supposed to do that? Is our
Yeah.
check, is that Charlie's job?
Yeah.
Right, so.
If you want me to do it, I'll do it.
I mean, when we have applicants filling out, we're just hand jamming it. I can actually go there, because they're guessing, I don't know, if there's Indian burial ground, who knows?
And you can't expect me to know what all the
Reserve
terms are.
drainage,
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
the wetland preserve.
Yeah, yeah.
But that form I used it once, it was pretty good, autofill, I think it was to the DEC or.
Yeah.
send me, what you want to talk about, seeker, and I'll, it sounds like more than just what seeker is.
This isn't just that, this isn't the touching.
Yeah, yeah,
Let's go
exactly.
deeper. Right.
Yeah, definitely, and I'll get a hold of her and see if we can set it up, because she mentioned doing it before.
And I just sent you the email from MRB for 15 seconds.
Thank you.
Andy, after comment, I mean, having been involved in some pretty controversial projects, what ends up happening is the applicant's engineer will oftentimes clear all the environmental stuff.
Right.
And then they're going to turn it into town, the planning board is required to make decisions on this stuff, but you usually hire, a third-party engineering firm
To check it.
to check it.
Right, and we don't do that.
Well, I've never seen a planning board actually do that.
Yeah.
They'll hire a professional to look over all the materials.
Yeah.
That's the way.
Well, Canandaigua does, because I used to do it for them. I know they are. Mike does too, yeah, but not here. You know, yeah, you're right, Mark.
I think exactly, right? How does that impact cost?
Does the applicant?
The applicant, some communities, the applicant
Pays for
is
the,
taking, yeah, they pay that cost. Yeah. I mean, even like the landscape, like something simple to some people's landscaping. For Henrietta, I used to look at their drawings of every application that came in, and I had a checklist that didn't fit. I marked it all up. The applicant paid for me to look at it, and then the planning board said, you didn't meet this, 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 and this. So
that'd be awesome.
it is nice. Yeah, if somebody else is checking that for you, it's a nice thing. But that's why I'm wondering, what are we really required to do? So.
I think it depends on how complex the project is. You know, like if it's a huge development, like you see,
Oh, yeah.
you really need somebody else to help you with it, like this little, this.
Right.
So what is Chris?
Cultural Resource Information System.
Oh, okay.
Information.
I didn't know it was.
Oh, I gave up my.
Yeah, it's archaeological study.
It's historic. They've created a GIS mapping system that shows you all of the historic registered properties, cemeteries, native artifact areas, which Lima has a significant number of. There's a significant number of native artifacts where, you know, it's archaeologically sensitive. So if you start digging up the ground, you have to have a survey come. You know, there's engineering companies that do these surveys where every so many feet they go through and they lightly check, and then they give clearance to the project and say, no, we're all good, we didn't, you know, go in there ground or something like that.
Is there such a thing as a paper copy of evidence?
Yeah.
Isn't that right?
Yeah, if you can,
Comprehensive.
Yeah, give a printer.
1,000.
You must have read it
I
at the
printed a
meeting.
little bit.
Yeah.
It was like, I can't
You
do it.
must have put a bookmark in it and get back to it.
Right.
Yeah, but we have a paper copy.
There isn't more than one?
I don't know.
Okay.
If I have to, I'll make a copy.
I had a paper copy, I could certainly give it to you, we could make copies of it. I printed my, yeah, I printed my own. Yeah. It's not bad. It's not bad. What?
It's not that big.
I couldn't tell you. It's big enough that I don't carry it with me. Okay. I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion made, second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Thank you applicants and public participants.